What up? What the hell? Alright, we are back after a long break. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm drawing a whole bunch of turkeys. I'm guessing it's gonna be a big TikTok day today. Usually, oh, what's up, Poochie? I was just going to say usually everyone's already in here that's gonna be here, but we were wrong. Poochie just got here, and it's awesome. How are your holidays, Pooch? We are, for TikTok people, not too funny. Yeah, right. We're drawing turkeys. Same for you, Pooch. You are my number one. It's awesome. Oh, this picture I took over the, Oh, whoa, my chat's glitching. I can't see actually what you're typing. Very interesting. It'll fix later. I took this picture. Are you the everything is a box guy? Yes, I am, Dominic. Holy smokes. How'd you remember that? What's up, everybody? Everything is a box. This is so strange, Pooch. I can't even see her. There we go. You met a girl from Ghana. Whoa. Do you think it's gonna last? Are you guys still talking? Because that's pretty beast. You've been looking for me? Oh, that's so cool, Dom. Today we're doing like maybe a half lesson slash me just drawing something cool. I'll talk through everything that I'm doing as I'm drawing it, but I'm just kind of drawing from a reference image, and we're going to try and make it look as cool as possible. I found these 3 turkeys. Here, I'll show you the reference image. This is what I'm drawing. I found these 3 turkeys, and it looks like they're having a business meeting. So, what that means, she lives here. Oh, sick. Well, that's very cool. What that means for me is we can draw 3 turkeys and we can put ties and hats on them and then make it look like they're shaking hands for a big, big deal. Are we all tracking on this? Pooch, you know what sucks is I can see your next message on the stream, but in the actual pop-out chat it takes so much longer. So I can't even see the next message. It'll come. I'm not too pressed about it. But for drawing turkeys, we have these 3. We have this reference image that's going to be right next to us the whole time, right? What reference images do is I just want to see this damn. Maybe if I refresh. What reference images do for us. Come on, baby, come on, baby, come on. Get me there. Oh, you're over your ex. Finally. I finally get to see that message. That's good. I'm so glad. I was getting worried about you as we were nearing the 10-month mark of still kind of feeling it. But, you know, what they always say is you have to wait at least half the length of the relationship to fully be over someone. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it makes a little bit of sense. If you're that invested into a person and it ends, you probably need quite a bit of time to get over them. So I'm glad that I'm glad you're talking to new people. You had a dream of me. I gave you a gold dog tag and wanted me to hold on to it. Dude, that's actually extremely powerful. I'm sure I did that. A gold tag is interesting. I don't hand gold tags out to a lot of people. So, you're lucky. Or the chosen one. With turkeys, with these drawings, with reference images. I was trying to say this earlier, but I had to update a whole bunch of bullshit. Reference images are great. A lot of people will tell you that it's cheating. It's not. They're losers. What reference images do is it gives you just a little bit of, let's say like it gives you a crutch. It gives you something to help your getting better. Say drawing is like having a broken leg, consistently having a broken leg, and you're constantly trying to walk and it doesn't work. What a reference image does is it gives you a pair of crutches so that your healing process or getting to that walking point makes it a hell of a lot easier. Now, you might be thinking, holy hell, that's a great analogy. Guess what? It is. It bangs. I just made it up. But what people call cheating is if you only ever draw from reference images, right? Like if I only ever have pictures next to me constantly and I'm only tracing or using reference. But what's really cool about reference images is if I want to copy this down, as I'm learning to draw it, as I'm doing this whole piece, I'm thinking about all of the strokes that it's taking just to get to this point. So later on, when I am drawing, say like maybe in a month, let's say I'm drawing more turkeys, or I'm drawing a different bird that kind of looks like a turkey. I'm going to go back on the information that I've learned from this drawing that I'm using a reference, and I'm going to be able to like muscle memory my way back to a bunch of these angles and a bunch of these details because I've drawn it before and I just happen to use a reference this time. So that's like that's how to actually use reference images for like basically for profit. Like you're trying to learn something from the reference so that later on you can redraw and you can redo and make it look cool. So if you're ever worried about reference or no reference, just do the reference, buddy. Everything you draw, every little piece, every new sort of thing you can add to your arsenal or add to your memory box for what to draw, do it. Just keep adding. Keep understanding how things look and how things feel and how things translate to paper, and just keep ripping through drawings. And then when you are doing a drawing that's sort of just how you say from imagination, just do it. Just fucking buckle down and be like, oh, I've actually drawn 14 of these all from reference. I can probably do this from memory right now pretty quick. So reference sort of is like a two-parter. You trust yourself with what you're learning, and you also make sure that you're not using this as like the end-all be-all drawing technique. It is a crutch to get you back in the money zone. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Oh goodness. I'm really thinking about that gold dog tag. What does it mean? Bucci, I think there's something pulling us together. There has to be. Okay, now back to this drawing. So we just talked about how reference images work and how using a reference actually helps you draw better instead of cheating like everyone else says. But now let's talk about these drawings specifically. As you can see, around, well, you can barely see on YouTube and Twitch, but on TikTok you can see it pretty easily. There are these big boxes around each of these turkeys that I'm drawing. And you might be thinking, what the hell? A turkey's not a box. Everything in drawing is boxes. Dominic, I'm looking right at you. So, with this drawing, I put out all of these boxes, these three main boxes, so that I could have basically a Tupperware container for where all my detail is going to be. Then, from this box, right, I started laying in big simple shapes for these turkeys. So, I did a circle for the head. I did some weird little curvy rectangles for the neck, just super simple stuff. I did a big oval for the body. It has to be, man. I know. I did circles for the haunches, I did sticks for legs, I did a rectangle for the back feathers. Basically, I'm shoving in a bunch of very simple shapes into this piece so that now that I've sort of gotten to this point of understanding the shape and size of all these things, I can start doing little details and little outlines everywhere on this drawing, and it's slowly going to come together. So, as we move, I'm going to very slightly. Oh, they also have these little nose bumps I always forget about. I'm going to very slowly use my reference image as well as just my brain and my memory. And I'm going to slowly add an outline to this guy, adding just a little bit of flair, just a little bit of flavor. That's going to help us do some fun details later. But I'm really just focusing on trying to get the main outline done. Because once you have a main outline done, there's sort of like there are steps to a drawing, right? There's sort of kind of like a game of chess or like a video game or a soccer game or whatever you want to compare it to. Basically, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, especially in a drawing, right? So, what a beginning is all of those simple shapes I was just talking about. I'm talking about all of the, there's more to dreams, but kind of explicit. Oh, wow! Like you and me and the other people in the city, like Chicago or New York, looking for a guy on the floor dead, and that's why you gave me the, whoa. Oh, so you had a full action movie. That's sick. That's really fun. I love when big dreams end up feeling like a 2 or 3 hour movie, right? Like you wake up and you're like, oh my god, I just like lived a whole nother life, or like I watched a whole movie plot happen right in front of me. Those are the best. The absolute pinnacle of entertainment. Um, Damn, I said again. With the lesson, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? What the hell are we talking about? The simple shapes. Yes, the beginning, the middle, and the end game of a drawing. The beginning is all of these simple shapes, right? And then the mid game, which is going to be pretty much the bulk of your drawing, are all of these like narrowing down details, getting little outlines going, getting all of this stuff laid in and correct and the proportions solid. And then the end game is just the final little bit of detail. Like the end game, the ending of a drawing, like where you're making it look nice, should not be like the bulk of it. Unless you're doing super like hyper realistic stuff. Then I can understand taking your time. But if you spend 90% of your time on a drawing, you get all of your proportions, all of your setup, all of this stuff correct first, and then the detail stuff is just like a cakewalk. It's nothing. You don't have to worry about it at all, which is sick. That's my favorite way to draw, and my favorite way to teach drawing. So with that, I'm just going to continue focusing on all of this outline, because sort of as a mid game, getting the outline good is hugely important, because what that outline is going to do for us is it's going to give us markers for every piece of detail and where it needs to be. The outline is basically our perfect Tupperware container, and we just get to inlay everything inside of the outline. So, taking the outline really seriously is actually pretty beast. It's pretty epic. Okay, 1 second. I need to take a very quick break. I'll see you in a second, Pooch. Okay. We are back and we are chilling. Now, back to these turkeys. Hey everybody, how's it going? Oh, Dom, thanks for the roses, you freak. You absolute freakazoid. Dom, check out this watch. You like that? That's pretty classy, huh? That's what you get for 5 roses. You get to see my watch for 5 roses. Everybody, Remember that the next time you're thinking about gifting me some little pixels on TikTok. Yeah, baby. Okay, so we're in the mid-game, and basically, what I can tell you about any bird, what a deal. That's so sick. Thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot. What you can know about every single bird, and this is a controversial take, and I stand by it. Every bird is just a teardrop. Every bird is just like a blob of nothing, right? They have no shape. It's just, if I was to make this a simple shape, it would just be a teardrop, right? From, if the head is the point, it's just a little chicken drumstick. It's just a little teardrop, right? So if we remember that, every time that we're drawing the body, you can see I have that neck, but I'm basically just doing a big blobby booger, right? To draw a teardrop, do you need a box? Yes, you do actually need a box for a teardrop. Hello, just passing by. What's up? Assassin Doggo. It's been a while. How was your Christmas? How was your holidays? How was your Hanukkah? How was your New Year? How was whatever you celebrate? Okay. We have the box. We then have the teardrop. Thank you very much, Dominic. With this teardrop, it sets us up to get a couple of circles here for our, like, birds sort of have hips. They don't really have hips, so we're just going to kind of call them haunches. We're just drawing at least points of contact for where these legs are going to start, right? And then they can have that sort of weird alien-like, chicken leg-like tendencies, right? So as we're drawing these, we're just slowly adding in very broad shapes. I'm not drawing the legs yet. I'm not really even thinking about drawing the legs yet. I just want to get some sort of idea of what these legs are going to look like. And you know what the worst part about everything is? You know what the worst part about my whole life is? I lost my eraser. So 1 second. Everybody relax. How do we gift money or something? I actually have no idea. I don't think I can accept any because I'm too small of a creator. But I don't know. I don't really get any of that. Let me find my eraser. Nice. Okay. I'll look into that, Poochie, though. But trust me, I don't need anything if you're trying to slide me something. I just enjoy having you here. So, rule for erasing. Do it whenever and as much as possible. You might think that's crazy, but guess what? Everybody starts drawing, right? And everybody listen up in the back. I see you guys talking. I don't want you to. Everybody starts drawing, and you get to a point where your drawing sucks, and you get pissed off, and you close your notebook. Ooh, guess what, baby? You just made the biggest mistake of your whole life. If you're drawing like this, if you're doing all of this setup stuff, if you're doing all of the boxes, all of the teardrops, all of the circles, all of like the little outlines and details, you're keeping all your pencil strokes very light, right? And this is a superpower because when you mess up, you are going to mess up. Every single time that you're learning how to draw something, you're going to mess up. I just messed up on this and I'm using reference images, right? Like I'm looking at the thing I'm drawing every few seconds and I still mess up. So, with all of these super light lines, be okay with erasing it. Just like erase the chunk that you don't like and redo it. And look, like now when I go to finish that, I have the perfect proportions and the perfect detail, and I didn't just get frustrated and close my notebook. If you close your notebook, you lost. Like that's the one failure you can get in drawing is just like, whatever, this sucks. I hate it. I'm not doing it anymore. Like, no. That's like, you can't learn, you can't get better at drawing if you are getting frustrated. That's why this method is so sick. The method of doing all of the simple shapes first and spending 90% of your time doing setup and then doing the final detail at the end means I don't have to close my notebook in frustration anymore because I pretty much nail it every time. Let's see if I have any cool drawings in this notebook that I can show off. I don't think I do, but I might. Ah, there's a couple. There's like all of these, right? Like this is just a practice page. This guy's forehead is way too big, like everything else, but his nose ended up being pretty sick. His nose ended up looking a lot nicer than I usually draw noses. And then I was doing some like random 3D shapes. I did this sweet sandal that actually looks pretty realistic. But it's all just like super slow, methodical, trying to get simple shapes down. And every time you mess up, you just erase the one little line. There's a big fish for you. It's a pike, a northern pike for all of my northerners out there. You just do the little, oh, this one's sick. This is a mantis drawing I did and some graffiti lettering with it. You like that, Dominic? So, basically, what I'm trying to explain is the finished product is like what you're shooting for. If it takes extra long to get there, that's fine. But would you rather have a sweet finished product or a bunch of half-drawn, like, give up frustration drawings in a notebook? You tell me. I'm thinking I'd rather have a banging piece that I can show people and say, yeah, I did draw that actually. So, as we're going, we're getting all of these sort of outlines and details. I'm still keeping all of my pencil strokes light. I'm still keeping everything as raw as possible. Everybody say that with me. Raw, right? Those English or like second language teachers, like, all right, everybody, all right. Can you say raw? And then nobody can. But with that, like, look, I'm just slowly grinding through. I'm just giving myself little indicators of where I want everything to lie. And we can do all the details later. I'm not rushing this drawing at all. We have, what, we have an hour to kill, boys. So we're just doing it. This guy's legs look immaculate. Like, I'm fine with those. Once I start adding detail on those guys, we're going bang on. So we're just going to slowly continue adding this outline and making sure that it's pretty much perfect before we start doing details. And what's really fun about drawing all of these big fat fucking birds is because they are just like teardrops and all of these simple shapes. Raw dog. See, Michael gets it. Michael loves going raw. Basically, what this is doing, what all of these outlines that I'm drawing are doing for me, is they're making sure that when I am adding detail in, I have that foundation to actually make things look good. If you rush a drawing, buddy, whoa. If you rush a drawing, do not sit with me at lunch tomorrow. That's all I'm going to say. Just take your time. Drawing, the thing too, especially, oh my god, especially on TikTok, like, people rush through these drawings, or they'll go and do like time lapses and they give this crazy, like, oh, I drew this in 2 seconds, or like, this is my easiest drawing ever. Like, no. That's not how it works. Those people are spending hours on it, and then they're editing it down. And they're doing exactly what I'm doing right now, this slow, methodical, like, boring type of drawing, right? And then they're refining at the very last second, and then they're just showing you the best little refining pieces from that drawing. And then people go into their notebook, and they try and draw the same thing, and they realize, holy shit, how the hell am I supposed to draw this? Like, there's no way. And yeah, that makes sense, because you're not spending the 30 minutes on a drawing, you're spending 2 seconds on it and getting frustrated. That's what this sort of slow, methodical system solves. If you can get really used to spending, I don't know, let's say 20 minutes. Is everyone alright with that? 20 minutes on a drawing. We've already been drawing on these guys for 26, right? And this is how far we've gotten. Spend if you're trying to draw something and your goal is like 5 minutes to draw it, just bump it up. Bump it up to 20 and see how much better that drawing ends up being because you just added an extra 15 minutes on it. And what that's going to do is it's going to load out your notebook and make it look way cooler than everyone else at the lunch table. So, as you can see, I just finished all of these outlines of these birds. Oh, let's get this guy some legs, huh? Let's throw him down. Oh yeah, he's got chicken little legs. And then we'll just give like an indication for claws for now. But like with this outline, everyone can see basically where all of the details are going to be. You can see where the face is going to be. You can see where the claws are going to be, the talons, whatever you want to call them. You can see where the wings and the feathers, all of the fun stuff. You can see it. Like, all we have to do is sort of lay in detail now on top of this. And I'm even going to go back over to this guy, and I'm going to darken up some of these lines because I'm very happy with them. So, we can just slowly but surely work our way around this outline, just caring about shape, just caring about all of the little stuff, his little undercarriage, his gooch even. We can just barely darken up some of these lines because we're proud of them. And then with that, we end up having a much more realistic and a much better indication of where all of these details are going to be. Isn't that nice? These three fat fucks sitting around, hanging out. So now we can go in and we can start adding in little indications of where we think the eyes are going to be, which they're going to be on this guy about right here and right here. Those are subject to change. Everybody relax. We're fine. When you're drawing birds, when you're drawing animals, it's important to note where the eyes lay on the head. And what you can do with this information is like either look at reference images or look at skulls, which is kind of a crazy take, but if you look at the skulls of animals, you sort of start to realize that there are commonalities. Like with birds, the eyes are usually in the middle of the head, right? They're not in like the front of the face like humans or other animals, right? They're on the sides. They're on like the middle of the skull. If you're drawing like a leopard, for example, they're going to be a little bit closer, but still, like, they're spread out. Like dogs and cats and everyone, their eyes are like a little bit more spread out than humans because, guess what? They need to look for predators and they need to look for prey. Humans don't really need to do that. We kind of just need to look at other people. So we we don't really need that like primitive advantage to stay alive, because guess what? We've figured it out. We're pretty much fine. We can survive most, if not all, animals at this point. So we don't need a crazy peripheral vision, right? And I'm even looking at this guy in the middle. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to keep his head like that small, because maybe that's just how he is. Maybe he just has a small head, which is fine. I'm sure plenty of people in chat right now have small heads, and that's cool. So, as we're going along, I'm just finding little indications, little details, little things that I can add and sort of sketch out. Like I'm placing big shapes for big sections of feathers. I'm sketching out big spots for where I want shadows to be. Because once you get to a certain point, like this feather or this wing sort of envelops into the body, right? So I'm just going to add a little circle, a little oval for that to give me an indication. And then it finishes off with another one. So I'm just going to add another indication for that. Keeping everything super simple. Turkeys also have this big sort of, it's kind of like a pea coat when you look at them. If you Google images, actually I'll just show you this reference image I'm using. If you can see this, like right down the middle, look at that guy. It's almost as if he's wearing a coat and it's wrapping around. So, if you saw just a second ago, I did that big circle for this wing, and then that little circle for that wing. And now I'm just working on a little etching of this sort of coat that he's having. So then, when I am getting to the final design, I remember in my head that it is kind of split down the middle, and feathers should be even or equal throughout, right? So we can do that just very simply like this. And now we have a way better indication of how his body is split up and spread out, right? Are we all following this? Same thing on these guys. Except since they're turned, we really don't get a ton of that other side. We just get a little bit of that midline through his big gut. Turkeys look a lot like stereotypical businessmen, like from the 1800s. You know what I mean? Like the big guys with huge coats and little tiny hats on top of their heads. Like that's all turkeys are. So when we're drawing them, we can just sort of pretend that we're doing that style, and I'm just going to add in a very rough cut of all of the feathers that he has, but still remembering that that midline exists, and we're just throwing in a bunch of little hash mark lines so that when we are doing any sort of high detail, we remember the flow. We remember the flow of all of these feathers and where they go. So these lines probably aren't going to be final, but they're at least going to give us a way better indication of what things should look like instead of just going in blind. You see that? You see how just those few like scratchy marks gave us so much information on how all of these feathers are supposed to lie? It's beast. It is sort of what makes drawing fun. So same thing on this guy. We're going to follow that. He's got that kind of coat he's wearing, right? And then all of the feathers just sort of converge into that midline. So I'm just throwing really scratchy, squiggly lines all in here so that when I am doing some higher detail, I remember that everything should flow this certain way. And that makes the drawing, this step of the drawing, it makes it look even cooler too, because it's also going to give us sort of a backdrop. There's something called gray washing in drawing and in art, and it's basically giving like a tone of color, basically this whole thing. I'm just adding color to it, so then when we are doing, oh, let's give this guy a big wing section, huh? This guy's going to show off most of his feathers, unlike the other two. So we're going to do a big oval here as an indication. And these feathers are going to be sort of self-contained, so we can make all of these lines look like this, right? And then these ones end up going straight down. And we're just like slowly figuring out all of the shape of these lard asses. So as we're going, the same thing. It's all repetition. Now that we have the outline, now that we have all of these things sort of working for us, it's just sort of a repetition flow state of a drawing, which is awesome. This is like the goal. If you can get a drawing to this point where you're just sort of laying in random details and just figuring out extra stuff, you're good. You're golden, pony boy. Okay. How are we doing? How's everyone feeling? That's good. Great. Me talking to absolutely nobody. Okay. So with these, we can start even more. Like, let's find more and more little details that we can start laying in. So we have these sort of color switches where their feathers, here I'll show you the reference image. Can you draw the Pope the Performer? Oh, I could. I'm going to finish these turkeys though. You can see on these feathers, there are these big sort of slits of brown inside of the black, right? And then down here there's almost like shingles. It's almost as if like there's bark on these turkeys, right? So to get this feeling good, thanks Lonnie, I'm glad. So to get that feeling or to get that vibe or to get that shape, we have all of these lines that are showing us where all of that stuff is going to be. And now it's just sort of a, like, how can I get these triangles or these slits to look a little bit reminiscent of that idea? So if you remember from that outline, I drew a couple of these notches to give me an idea of where these are going to be. So I'm just going to start throwing in those little triangles. And this is sort of when you have to start trusting the process, because these are going to look like they don't match up or they don't look good. Oh, Poochie, you're back. I'm glad. Court's Creation. So, I did a thing you might like. Ooh, what'd you do, Court? Also, how you been? How was your break? How was your holidays? How was your New Year's? Whatever you celebrate, how was it? So as we're going, we're just really focusing on sort of capturing that vibe of these color shifts, of these feather shifts, without actually having to do really hard detail. I drew a face from memory and did the breakdown mapping. Oh, sick! Dude, that's awesome. All simple shapes, I'm guessing? The only thing I know how to teach, the simple shape method. And as we're going with all of these, we're just, like, it sounds stupid and it sounds strange, but I can't draw every single feather, or I can't draw every single piece of hair, or I can't draw every single piece of fur, right, on an animal. But I can draw the vibe of those feathers and that fur. So what we're doing is you kind of have to take some creative liberty, and you kind of just have to guesstimate. Like, I'm not going to draw 50 of these things when, like, in reality, that's what turkeys have. They have 40 or 50 feathers, like, all just in this neck. I'm not going to draw all of that, but I can draw just enough to make you, the viewer, understand that I'm drawing feathers and drawing a turkey, right? So just pick out all of the ones that feel really important to see, and then the rest can just sort of be scribble, right? And that sounds crazy, I know, and you're going to hate me for it, but as long as we can draw the vibe of these feathers, or just the general idea that there are feathers on this guy, that's going to be enough. That's like, people are going to rejoice when they see this drawing, and they're not going to notice that we did only half or like a fourth of the feathers that we're trying to draw, right? And so with that, let's go. He has this sort of weird pink neck, but let's start shading in just a little bit on all of these, around these little feathers that I drew, just to add some color. And then what this is going to do is it's going to start separating those little indication zones, and we'll soon have a difference in value everywhere. And then we can go back and like really refine and get some like hard dark lines around these. We can get some really soft highlights around these. We can do everything, and it's not going to look like a whole bunch of junk, hopefully. Now it could be. We could finish this, or we could get to a point where I look at it and I go, oh my god, this is awful. But as it stands right now, we're capturing the vibe of the feathers. We're not drawing every feather, we're just trying to capture the vibe. So then as we go into finer and finer detail, it's a lot easier to sort of get that finished product, because we're just focusing on big, broad ideas right now. So, from here, let's shrink this guy's neck up a little bit. And I can do that because it's my drawing. So we're just going to shrink that up a little bit. And let's start trying to get this to be a little bit more permanent. So I'm going to start laying in some darker lines, right? I'm going to start taking a few leaps of faith. A lot of drawing too is taking a leap of faith when you get to a point where you can't really do too much more detail. Like you run out of space and you just kind of have to put money where your mouth is. So we're just going to slowly darken up some of these lines. Oh yeah, that looks sick. Okay, there's that. Let's darken up some of these as well. Just a few. Again, we're just doing some vibe setting. And I've been saying that word a lot. I apologize, but it is worth it. We're just drawing a bunch of these strange little slits of color, which I'm not going to color in. But then, when we do color around all of this in a much darker, it's going to start popping. It's going to start looking like, oh my gosh, there is a different tone here. There's fur underneath these feathers. There's a soft coat and a hard coat, right? And we're getting slowly closer to a finished product. So I'm just very gently adding in value. Value is another word for color. Adding in value around these sections that we can then refine a little bit later. Nice. I'm going a little bit silent here because I'm entering a little bit of a flow state, which is sweet. That's also another big goal. Whenever you're drawing, getting to this point where everything sort of starts feeling like it's falling into place, so you kind of just go silent and you're just drawing a little bit by a little bit. And it's so fun and cool to get to that point. So we can start refining, adding a little bit of sauce, a little bit of flair on this outline that we spent so long doing earlier. Right? We can go into this head and then into this neck. And then look at that. We are slowly getting to a feather zone. And again, you might think to yourself, that doesn't actually look like what you're trying to draw immediately, but it's way closer. We're just slowly etching away. We're slowly adding in detail where we can, so then we can refine it later. Like I can add in value to these, I can add in shading, I can add highlights. I can even erase little bits of this darkness because I didn't draw it super heavy, and I can get that full feather effect, right? So we're just slowly working in all of these details. And they're all subject to change. That's the fun part. That's the best part about drawing, is that when you get to this point, when you're in this flow state, it's just about refining. I'm just slowly working my way through all of these details. Because, you know, turkeys are a hard bird to draw. So it's like, this is going to take some time. And I'm fine with that. I've started this drawing knowing that it's an undertaking, right? And we're just slowly trying to get there. And you can't get there in one step. You have to get there in multiple steps. And that's sort of the shittiest part about drawing, or about learning how to draw, is you slowly understand how much work goes into drawing realistic, or even drawing like cartoon. It's just a constant refining into everything. Court, you still here? I'm interested in getting that, maybe if I end, I'll probably end soon, and I'll jump over to you and I'll see that drawing if possible. But, as we're moving, with this neck, basically the rest of this drawing is all just texture. And texture is a really interesting, hard thing to get good at drawing. And so, this is sort of when that gray washing I was talking about earlier happens. I'm keeping all of my pencil strokes following the same form of this big blobby body, right? I'm just adding a splash of gray pretty much everywhere. And what this is going to do is it's going to end up hiding a lot of mistakes, but also giving me a ton of space to add in finer details. So I know that all of his feathers are going to be following these lines, right? And I can just slowly add in details on top of these little gray lines, and people are going to say, oh my god, it looks as if he drew every single feather. But in reality, I just drew a bunch of scratchy gray lines, and then I added in a couple of really well-placed details. And that's it. That's like that's the trick of drawing. It's like in this exact moment, it's sort of like a magic trick. I'm not actually drawing any of the feathers on this guy. I'm just making you believe that I'm drawing feathers because I'm switching up my pen strokes every so often. Like this leg. This leg right here, this haunch, it looks almost 3D because I curved all those lines. A few hens, eh? Yeah, baby. Moose killer. Thank God I'm not drawing a moose. I'm just drawing turkeys. Love you, bro. Thanks, Pooch. Right back at you. But as you're going, like, you're slowly seeing this, like, this 3D object is sort of appearing just because I'm keeping these gray scratchy lines in line or in shape and following that form that we spent so long setting up. And those legs can just be straight lines down. So we can even add in a little bit extra there. And of course, when we go back in this drawing and we're doing some like erasing and we're doing some finer detail, we know that all of these lines have to at least stay around enough to give us enough of that detail. So we're just going to keep cooking. We're going to spread out some of these feathers down here. This is where his feathers go straight. You can see it on this guy a lot better. And this point of the wing, all of the feathers end up going straight down instead of sideways, which is going to be a very fun part to draw. But that's really it for like the big broad lessons of drawing a turkey. It's all just slow shape and form. So I'm just going to, for the rest of the time, continue with that idea of following the form of the shape. So all of these feathers are going to be sideways. All of these ones are going to be pretty much the same direction but a little bit different. And then same with these, they're going to cut back a little bit to horizontal. And then the rest of his feathers sort of just cascade down onto his body, right? So we're just giving indications of that. You can see all of the subtle little line switches as we're going. And this, I'm telling you guys, you're gonna hate to hear it, but this is where drawing gets either very boring or very fun, depending on what you like when you're drawing. Because now I have to go in to all of these extra lines, and I have to slowly sift out and pick where I want certain feathers to lie and be shown and change, and it's just a grind. We're just going to slowly grind with some rounded edges on top of all of these gray wash lines that I did. But as you can see, with that little bit of setup, we're slowly getting to a much more realistic feather, right? And you can just keep doing this. You can do this as much or as little as you want, slowly but surely. And then we'll go back in. You see how there's a little bit too much space in between all those feathers? We're going to go back in between these and cut them in half. But we need that setup. We need this sort of extra space to even cut in half first. So, how are we doing? This is the part of the drawing where we just get to chit-chat instead of doing a ton of lessons, because I can't really teach more as we're doing a million feathers, right? Because it is just sort of slowly adding detail and refining. So I've just got to grind through a ton of these little, almost like, it is kind of like a honeycomb pattern if you're only drawing like a very small piece of the honeycomb, right? And I'm keeping all of my lines extremely light because as you go, or as we will finish this drawing, I have to erase a bunch of this stuff. I have to refine and keep going and choose what things need to be dark and what things need to be light. So keeping all of my pencil strokes very, very light and easy to erase gives me a chance to make them look a lot better. But you see that? You see how just a few strokes, slowly but surely getting that vibe of feathers. And it looks like this guy has a full sort of chest of texture, of feathers, of everything. And that is really, really cool. Almost like fish scales. Okay. We can also switch to drawing something else as well, because now I just have to do essentially that on all of these birds. And that's going to blow chunks to watch. Oh, sweet! I've got a bot. I've got a bot in my Twitch chat asking if I want free viewers. All you have to do is pay 40 grand and you can have as many viewers as you want. That's great, thanks. Oh, that's great, thank you. I would actually love to buy. How many? How many can I have right now? So we're just going to slowly, oh, look at that. That's a nice little detail I added. We're just slowly adding in all of these feathers. And yeah, it gets tedious and it gets annoying. But when I have 3 honkin' turkeys on my sketchbook and you don't, who's the winner? Who's really winning in this world? The guy that has big fat turkeys in his sketchbook, or you just watching me? Kind of a dilemma, kind of a debacle. And again, none of these lines are final. Even the ones that look like they're final, they're going to be changed. But look at this, these tail feathers that I just drew, right? Just images, or just like very rough cut that I know the feathers are going to drape down instead of curve up. I'm just adding a little indication there. So when I am going back with, like, say, a pen or a color or whatever, I know exactly where those are supposed to be and I know what kind of curve they're supposed to be. So let's go back up here and let's cut these in half like I was talking about earlier and create a more full, realistic view of a lot of these feathers. But look at that. That's kind of banging. That's kind of sweetness. And we can do this other side quick. Remembering that middle line is very important. Since these feathers are moving away from us, they're going to be a little bit skinnier. It's going to be a little bit harder to see all of the details on these guys. So just like take some liberties as you're going. This is sort of like when you're sketching like this, everything is sort of a pretty mistake, right? Sort of like that Bob Ross guy always talks about. Like everything can just be a nice little mistake, but because they're so heavy in detail, nobody's ever going to notice. Alright. That's one turkey. He's like 90% done almost. We really just have to refine him and make him look realistic. So I'm just going to throw in a little bit of texture on this head piece, his dome piece, and I'm just doing that with little tiny repeating circles because they don't have fur up here. They're all skinless. They look like, for lack of a better term, scrotums. They look like sacks, which is fine. I'm not dogging them for it, but you know, you gotta call a spade every once in a while. Turkeys sometimes look like ball sacks. It's okay. This is a safe space. We can say things like that. And we can't get in trouble. Nobody better get me in trouble for saying something like that. Let's add in his mouth slit. Oh yeah. Just a rough cut. Nothing too important. His little nose hole. But like this guy, alright, we spent what? 20 minutes on just details alone on this left turkey, and all he did was start from simple shapes. So now, once we want to like refine and finish that drawing, we can, because we have all of the building blocks. And now what we have to do is replicate all of those building blocks on this guy and this guy, and then we can sort of refine and make it look cool and nice and realistic. But for today, we're not doing that. I've already spent an hour doing feathers. So guess what? I'm not doing 2 more hours worth of feathers, everybody. I'm probably going to do this baseline stuff on these guys off stream, and then we can catch back up and do the fun final details. And that's when we can add little hats on these guys and bow ties and make it look like they're doing some sort of nefarious business deal. Right? Okay. Well, that's been awesome. Everyone in TikTok, thanks for hanging around. This is sick. I'm really glad that 5 or 7 of you just stuck around and watched turkeys the whole time. It's badass. It makes me feel very good. For YouTube and Twitch, thank you very much. Thank you for hanging out. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. And that's it. That's the stream. Goodbye, everybody. That was sick. Court, are you still here? I think you might be. Alright. Let's see. Are you live right now, Court? Let's find out. I made a single cent from that TikTok live. Isn't that awesome? Beautiful. What a world. What a sweet little world we live in. Alright. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Court's Creations. Oh, you're not live. That's alright. I don't even know if you're still in here. Video download is canceled. Oh no. Was my bitrate awful? Interesting. Alright, well, I'm out of here then. Goodbye, everybody.